Hello, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys. You are now entering Season 2 of the Swan Hockey Podcast. Swan Hockey is flying around the junior hockey world one episode at a time. You'll experience things dreams are made of, as well as things of terrible nightmares. Strap in, hold on, and enjoy the ride. And now, Swan Hockey.
So, Tier 2 Junior A hockey in the United States, the pecking order. So, North American Hockey League, number one, clearly, right? And I think the whole pecking order is completely clear. North American Hockey League, number one. NCDC, number two. Do we stop the list there, or do we keep going to number three?
Well, I think that NCDC, for one thing, I will say there is a small overlap, because I will say that some of the top teams in NCDC probably would not be non-competitive in the North American League. They wouldn't win a championship, but they could compete.
Yeah, I think there's overlap everywhere. I think the top of the NA could compete in the U.S.A. No problem, right? And I do believe there's overlap everywhere. And just to complete the list, or does the list stop there, or are we including the EHL?
No, the EHL is a completely different model. They're a different model.
Yeah. So
no.
Yeah. So they would clearly be number three, right? And
tier 3.
And I know, and yeah, they're tier 3. They call themselves tier 2, but there's a lot of people that are probably confused, especially new people to junior hockey that see that they're quote unquote tier 2. Well, and it's important to realize, like, hey, even if we're going to count them tier 2, they're at the bottom. NA, NCDC, EHL.
I do think you got to look at it this way. There is a crack between the USHL, I think, and the North American League. For one thing, you have player movement up and down, in quotes, which is a dead giveaway. And also, in terms of competitiveness, I just don't think the NOL really has the budget or the reputation to be able to compete with the USHL. So I would say they're definitely a different level now.
Oh, 100%. I'm just saying a little bit of. I'm just saying a little bit of overlap, meaning the top teams could play with the bottom teams.
Very limited. I think it's far more like the NCDC with the top teams like the South Shore and like some of those hitman teams be the worst NA, not even close. They might even make the playoffs, but they wouldn't go very far necessarily. They would make the playoffs possibly, though. On the other side of the coin, you go over to the NOL. I don't think there's a team in the NOL that make the USHL playoffs. I don't think it's even something we could even discuss. Yeah, the EHL, I think when people look at these leagues, look at where players go. Do you have anybody in the EHL going Division I whatsoever? No, never have.
Maybe a top-end 16-year-old gets a commitment once every different. 3 years, right?
Well, the difference is typically not very many 16-year-olds play in that league. And typically, if you're talking about a 16-year-old, he's going to play somewhere else. But because Division I doesn't even watch that league. They don't go watch it. I've never seen
that's what I'm saying. It's like once in a blue moon.
I'd say once in
2 blue moons.
I think it's more like once in Halley's Comet. It's something. It's not going to happen. Now, the NCDC does get some Division I players, not a ton, but they do get some, yeah. And the NOL definitely gets some guys Division I. Now, with the whole CHL thing, it'll be less for both those leagues, but they'll get the odd guy. The EHL is a league that is basically built around Division III and college club. And your chance to move into, like I say, have I ever seen in all my years of scouting a Division I guy watching EHL in recorded history? No. It's maybe a long time ago in the 90s or 80s somebody might have watched, but that's a long time ago.
They're gonna add him to Spaceship Earth in Epcot in Disney World. I don't know if you've ever been there or been on that ride, but it's like a journey through history. They'll have the D1 scout at the EHL game in one of the scenes.
That's what it would be way back when, because it just has moved on there. For one thing, remember, at one time, the EHL was the king out here. Well, now you have an NCDC that's come in and usurped that, and you also have the North American League in the East. And the North American League, remember, people forget U.S. junior hockey is something that's really evolved kind of funny. USHL wasn't a junior league even until the late 70s.
Some of this is just absolutely hysterical.
It's really interesting because the old days where USHL was a senior league, semi-pro league throughout the 70s, till the late 70s. Then they went to all junior format.
That I didn't
Then you
even know.
had, yes, they were. They're the top senior league. It was a semi-pro league that existed for years, very high-level one in the United States, semi-pro. It wasn't a high in the minor league chain level. It was very low. But you had some great players there. U.S. national team guys generally played there. The 1960 Olympic team, well, that's where a heck of a lot of guys played, and it was a strong senior level league back when the NHL was smaller and whatnot. North American League traces its roots back to the 70s, but it really became a going concern later. And you had some old Eastern leagues that flickered in and out of existence in the 70s. Then you really saw Eastern junior hockey start to pick up around 1990. We had the old Eastern League start that became NCDC. And so it's something that's more recent, and it sort of has evolved. And at one time, the EHL, of course, that came out of the Met League. That was the old Met League way back in the 1960s, and Neil Francis started it. The Youth League and the Junior League in the New York area, and it goes back to the 1960s. And of course, the hockey in this area wasn't that strong. They're all local players, and it never really brought a lot of imports in. It was just pretty much in that era, just local kids playing. It never really evolved past that. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the markets. They didn't have the player sources. Well, and of course, it's a change. Yeah.
And it sucks having this conversation because like the EHL is very good at what they do. I do like the EHL. People may think that I don't. I do like the EHL. I think they're very good at what they do. I think they've been the most, and they've maybe lost this a little bit as of, in recent years, but I think historically they've been the most consistent tier 3 league top to bottom. I do like the EHL. I think they're very good at what they do. It just sucks that they call themselves tier 2 now. So we got to put them in the tier 2 conversation, in the tier 2 category, where they're clearly last in terms of talent. They're clearly last in terms of, the financial benefit to players. They're charging players to play. NA obviously is free. NCDC, it's a hybrid, but still, I think the EHL is probably more expensive than the most expensive NCDC team. So they're just finishing behind in like every category now. So it sucks because they're good at what they do, but they didn't want to, I guess, live where they were living. So they wanted to try to rebrand it and this and that. And it sucks because with the rebrand, it puts them at like the bottom of the totem pole.
It's time for the Season Pass Point Unlock Code for Episode 10. The Episode 10 Point Unlock Code is Determination. Enter the code at www.swanhockey.io to receive your points. Season Pass is free to join. To join or to learn more, visit Swan Hockey Digital at www.swanhockey.io. And now, back to the show.
Well, I'll put it this way. They're tremendous, like you say, tremendous league. They're very well organized. They've done some excellent showcases. They do a really good job on marketing themselves. However, calling themselves tier 2, quite frankly, look, the Federal League could call themselves Major League tomorrow. You can call yourself anything you want, but it doesn't make you, the Federal League would still be paying guys $250 a week. So are they a Major League? No. Similarly here, you're charging kids $10,000, $12,000 a year up to, sometimes less than that, but still thousands you're charging. Can you attract the players to make yourself a tier 2 league? With the NCDC, a large percentage of is free, and at the very least, less expensive. The North American League is free, with the exception of maybe the odd billet cost and whatnot. USHL is free. You can't compare yourself to the free leagues. It can't be done. And so making that statement was purely basically a shot across the bow, trying to compete with NCDC, because NCDC we do know is in a battle with them in another way. It's NCDC isn't worried about the hockey. They clearly think and know they're the better league, but they're in a battle for markets. They're grabbing some of their markets, and so which in a way is worse than a hockey battle. If you're losing teams, you're losing markets. That's worse actually in a lot of ways. So they're fight back by saying we're tier 2 also, but in the end, that's not the way to fight back. You're not. It's a war that's over before it starts, because anybody that really is going to make it a tier 2 league isn't going to do it because you don't, you're to talk the talk, walk the walk. And to walk the walk, you start out by getting rid of tuition.
Right. Yeah. And they're not walking the walk.
No.
I mean, and they're trying to do some things like, so I obviously commend them on that, but it's even that, I saw something like that. Now every player in the league, they get like 2 sticks and an Under Armour or some, Under Armour t-shirt or something like that, maybe 1 or 2 other things. And I think it also said that they don't have to pay for their road trip if they make nationals. That whole pack, again, it's nice that they're trying to give the players that package, but it's like, hey, if we're talking true tier 2 hockey, don't have to pay for your road trip to national. What are we talking about? It's like comical. Like, oh, 2 sticks. Oh, an Under Armour t-shirt. Again, I feel bad. Even like it sucks having this conversation. It's just because we got to compare them to the other tier 2 now. When again, I think they're damn good at what they do.
Look, I don't mean to beat on FHL, but I'll use FHL analogy again. It's like saying we're paying guys $500 a week, so now we're a major league. It doesn't work. You're still paying guys $500 a week. It still isn't nearly enough. Until you get to the point where you're willing to pay major league salaries, or in this case in junior, you're willing to go tuition free. You aren't a tier 2 league, and you certainly are a very nominal tuition. You aren't a tier 2 league. You're going to make an argument against some of the NCDC teams, maybe, but some of these NCDC teams' tuition is $2,500, and bill it. In the EHL, it's over twice that. So,
well, and the NCDC, I mean, look, like those, I mean, the teams that are charging tuition, I mean, like, I consider them fantasy teams. Like, you're paying to do something, like you're paying to be part of the club that you're not in. Like
right.
It's just, like you can go to fantasy camp with the New York Yankees too. Okay, well now you can play in the NCDC for a price.
Well, you have isolated few teams there is a difference. Whereas here you have an entire league which is based on tuition. You don't have anybody that's non-tuition. NCDC have isolated few teams that are tuition. And so you have a 3-model league. And the bottom line is only a few are tuition, and so their tuitions are, none of them are exorbitant. Now, EHL not saying tuition.
Well, I heard one was like 9,000, which I guess unfortunately is still cheap compared to tier 3, but 9,000 to play in a league that, other people, that whole teams are playing for free. Like, what are you kidding me?
Oh, absolutely. And there is one that's charging $2,500, which is way below most tier 3 teams. So, again, it's a league that at least can say we're mostly tuition free. The other league can say we're not tuition free at all. And if and again, when you call yourself tier 2, you got to say you're calling yourself tier 2. Nobody else is calling you tier 2. Now, NCDC can say the same thing about, except the one thing is the difference is, again, they walk the walk. They go out and say, if you want to play for the Hitmen, is it going to cost you more than playing for, say, pick your favorite mall team? It isn't. On the other side of the coin, if you're going to play for a team in the EHL versus a Hitman, you're paying quite a few thousand more than you would at the Hitman. So you cannot compete. It's something that in the end, they call themselves that. They're not tier 2. So I can't really call them a tier 2 league. They're the best tier 3 league is what they are. They are the top tier 3 league in the country. Be proud of it. Do that. Play that role. And do what you're good at. Don't sit there and try to claim you're something higher, because you're not. Now, the NCDC will make that claim. They have more of a legitimate claim. But can they claim they're equal to the null? Well, there are problems with that. You can say there's an overlap, but team for team, no, they're not the same level.
And part of that is the finances, right? Same thing that we're saying with the EHL not being on par with the NCDC. That's the same reasons why, part of the same reasons why the NCDC is not on par with the NA, because some teams are charging, some teams have exorbitant billet fees. They still have, decent, they still have a league fee. So it's, again, like, it's not like we're picking on the EHL. It's the same rules for everybody, right? Like, the NA, it's free. That's why they're the best. They're attracting the best players because it's free. Nobody in their right mind would rather pay, $13,000 to play in the EHL instead of playing in the North American Hockey League, right? They're free. That's why they get the best players. Then the NCDC is kind of in the middle of it. That's why they're getting the second best players. And then the EHL is providing the third best opportunity. That's why they're getting the third best players.
Well, there's a difference here too. Like you look at teams at NCDC. Like, let's look at Hitmen, look at South Shore, look at PAL, look at Mercer, look at some of the good organizations there. Rockets, you look at some of their, Westchester is becoming that too. The good organizations there. Is it better to be there than a really bad all organization? Of course it is. On the other side of the coin, could I say it's better to be in the EHL than an NCDC or a null organization? I can't. No, it's not better. It is not better because at least in those places, do I see some of those kids getting opportunity? Yes. And do I see guys moving up and potential? Yes. On the other side of the coin, the EHL, not nearly as much. Not nearly as much traffic up to some of the higher leagues. And college hockey is very limited traffic. You'll get Division III there definitely. You get college club there definitely. Division I is out though at EHL. It's out. It's done. Now, so that's what you got to understand. Especially now, the CHL players coming in. It's over. You're not playing Division I, which speaks very loudly.
And you got to look like what people do too, right? So like Adam Hooley with the New Jersey 87s. You know, their 87s are a successful EHL program, right? Quote unquote tier 2 program. Yeah. He just left and moved away 5 hours from his house to go coach in Johnstown in the NA.
Of course.
Like, he lived at home coaching the 87s. And nothing against Adam Hooley. Congratulations to Adam Hooley. I'm saying he was coaching quote unquote tier 2 at home and now just moved 5 hours from his house to go coach in Johnstown in the North American Hockey League.
Truth is, there aren't very many guys in that league that wouldn't go to coach them all if they were given half a chance. And some would go to coach the NCDC, quite frankly, if given half a chance. Because it's, I know guys in the EHL that would love to see their team go NCDC because they just know that they're like trying to retain players for the youth programs in the EHL. They can't. Because the kids don't want to stay. They're going to move to a null team or NCDC.
No, it's lower level hockey. It's more expensive lower level hockey. What part of that sounds good?
It's
like in terms of going after the same player pool, right? That's why we're saying no. It's tier 3. It's a lower player pool, and they're damn good at what they do.
They're going to get the kid that's not cutting it, and the null and NCDC is what they're going to get. And I don't know a single one of my clients that is going to say, "Gee, I want to go to the EHL over those leagues." They don't. They all want to go to the NCDC or the null. They all would prefer the null. But a lot will say, "Okay, fine, I'll play in the NCDC," and some don't have a problem with NCDC at all. But the EHL, nobody wants to go down there unless it's a case of them finding out it's your only choice. And it's not it's a bad league. It's just is what it is. It's like you look at pro hockey. You'd love to play the National Hockey League. You love to play the American Hockey League, but you'll play in the ECHL if you can't play in one of those two. But it's not like anybody in their right mind to say, "Gee, I'll pick Reading over Hershey." Not going to happen.
Right.
You're not going to see that happen.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's just yeah, but it's but no, like we said, they're very good at what they do. They're just not a tier 2 hockey league. They're just not. But
no, and sometimes you just have to embrace what you're good at. You see, that's something that U.S.A. did when they made that conversion to junior hockey. It's something that suddenly they really start to get. It took till the early 90s for them to really get the wings under them, but eventually it took off. They became a very successful junior league. Before that, they were a senior league that was sort of limping on. And it was something that they're existing more than prospering. They really were not a high-level senior league, and as more American players got a chance, and college players got a chance to play in higher pro leagues, the quality was dilapidating more and more.
I've got the play for the EHL.
What?
The play for the EHL, if they want to be legitimate, tier 2, like sanctioned tier 2, they got to become a division of the SIJHL. Superior International Junior Hockey League. That league charges not $13,000-$14,000 US a kid, but they charge, and it's sanctioned. It's sanctioned by Hockey Canada, and it's again the Superior International Junior Hockey League. They've there's teams in the United States, or at least one team in the United States. I know they used to have more teams in the United States. The EHL should join the SIJHL and still be able to charge a little something to play and be actual sanctioned tier 2 junior A hockey. Well, that's the play.
Again, it's kind of it could be.
And you heard it here first.
But the problem is, you sit there and look at it. Does anybody think of that league as anything? No. You know,
But it's sanctioned tier 2 junior. It's a it's a legitimate tier 2 junior hockey league. Bottom of the tier 2 spectrum, yes, absolutely. But it's a legitimate sanctioned tier 2 junior hockey league that operates by the tier 2 standards and protocols set forth by Hockey Canada. Not by USA Hockey, but Hockey Canada. It puts them in a better situation than they are today, in my opinion.
In the end, who the heck listens to Hockey Canada or USA Hockey? In the end, nobody cares. You care about the quality. Who you listen to are some organizations like, the NHL. There's a place they get the NHL scouts like it. It's a good league. I can get the NC2A Division 1. It's a good league. Division 1 scouts like it. So it's a good league. Nobody cares if some guy out in Colorado Springs that collects all kinds of money from kids' tuitions, or up in Ottawa that does the same thing, collect money from this and that, has anything to say about a league.
That could be a commercial. Remember the Stanley Cup Finals commercial years ago? Like, where it'd be like, what if Bobby didn't fly? And it would have like remember like Bobby Orr flying, scoring a goal, and it was like that music would play and rewind. Yeah. They could have that, and it could rewind. It could be in the 1980 Olympics. It could be like, what if Herb Brooks listened to the guy in Colorado Springs and recruited the other guys?
They would have finished last. The bottom line is, the truth is that as far as American hockey goes, I always say we're a pretty darn good hockey nation if we do as well as we do with the guys we have running it at the top. We have to be pretty darn good. It's the people at the bottom that are good at running the game here. The people at the top, they've done everything possible to make a mess of things. And they've, and I'm not just talking USA Hockey. I'm talking a lot of the leagues, a lot of the organizations and stuff. These guys are not the guys that drive hockey in the United States. It's the bottom people, and it's sometimes the rebels that are willing to go outside of the lines a little bit and do it, that drive the game. It's the USHL. It wasn't USA Hockey that created USHL. The USHL created USHL. They made themselves. They're a self-made league. And so in the end, USA Hockey has happened to be a part of. But incidentally, if they want to say goodbye to it tomorrow, they could. They're the most powerful league in there. The only problem is they don't have the votes to get all the things that probably would be good for the game through, just on the votes. They have all those youth organizations that have votes. Canada's not entirely different. You have a governing body there that, again, the CHL is the guiding light for Canadian hockey. And you have the people down at the grassroots level in the Toronto Metro Toronto League and places like that really make the game work. And the national bodies, their classifications and whatnot, in the end, a lot of times have very little to do with hockey. It has to do, like the United States, how they do these things are 90% economic. It's not hockey. It's economics. Like junior, tier 1, tier 2. You look at the USA manual. It's spelled out. It's all financial. Now, how can the EHL call itself a tier 2 league? Why? Because they're not a USA Hockey League. They can call themselves anything they want. They can call themselves Major League Hockey tomorrow. They're not. Same thing with NCDC. NCDC, the only difference is de facto they've done it. The EHL can claim to be anything they want because they're not a part of USA Hockey. NCDC can too, but at least NCDC has went through some hoops to say, okay, uncle, you really could be called tier 2, although some of your teams don't really meet the tier 2 requirement. You have those teams that charge tuition won't meet that requirement, USA Hockey, but other teams would. So you're dealing with a scenario where, people have to be careful about what they believe. And in Canada, you have a lot of things done in Canada Canadians don't like, but that Hockey Canada does. They make a lot of arbitrary and political decisions too. They're not immune to it. And so if you want to look at the good decisions, you got to look at what the leagues and the hockey people make. The leagues, the best leagues, and what the hockey people say. What are the Division 1 coaches saying? They'll tell you, go play CHL or go play in the USHL right now. That's what they'll tell you. Division 3 coaches, we really like the NOL, we like the NCDC, we like them a lot. They'll tell you that. And they'll say, well, watch the EHL too. But you've got to realistically look at it. Where are they going? It's like when you go to the next level after that, where does a National Hockey League look for players? Which league do you want to be in to be drafted by the NHL? And once they draft you, where are they going to put you? Are they going to put you in a tier 2 league? No, they're going to put you in major junior. They're going to put you in college hockey, one of the two. And so therefore, those are the ways to go. So you got to do some things sensibly, and you just got to think logically. A top kid, say you're a top kid. where are you going to go? Am I going to go someplace that is I'm going to pay an exorbitant amount for it? Am I going to go someplace where I don't have to pay or pay minimal? Or go to a place where I play for free? Go to a place where I actually may make a little bit of money through different means, So the top kids, you know what the answer is. They're going to go to a place where they're either be paid or pay nothing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's the fact.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Swan Hockey Podcast. We remind you that season pass points are available to listeners. For more information, please visit www.swanhockey.io. Until next time.